Welcome back to Lorehammer. I'm your host, Mark. We got another manifesto for you. Let me hold you hostage for 20 minutes as I talk about something. Today's topic's going to be mainstream 40K. This has definitely been a shift over the last 5 years, but we've seen a couple crazy spikes. Like 8th edition, we've seen a crazy spike, but then Space Marine 2, man, we've seen another crazy spike of people joining the hobby space, or maybe not the hobby space, but the 40K space. So we're gonna go through that. Maybe what's good, what's bad. Should we gatekeep? Should we be throwing people off palace walls? I don't know. It's 40K. Let's get grim dark with it. Before we do, pay your tithe. Come join the Patreon. It's not expensive. You don't have to listen to ads, and it really helps the show out. Come join the Discord too. It's a lot of fun, and just hang out, whatever. And if you want to hang out, do a live stream. I see some people poking their head in here, so you can always call in at the end of the show. Just let me know if you want to. All right, let's get into this episode. Basically, it's 40K mainstream now. That's kind of the concept. I went very personal with my first little opener here, but for most of us, it's life. Warhammer 40K was niche. Expensive, dense, over the top, too dark, too violent, too weird. You didn't casually stumble into 40K. You committed to it. But now, there are AAA video games. There are streaming adaptations in development. There are crossover board games and mainstream retail pushes. Amazon Studios is developing a 40K series. Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2 is pushing into blockbuster territory. Do they use that term for fucking movies? AAA game rating. The question is, can the grim dark survive globally? What happens when a setting built on satire, extremism, and eternal damnation has to appeal to everyone? Does mainstream success strengthen 40K, or does it sand down the edges that made it dangerous in the first place? Is Warhammer 40K becoming mainstream? And if it is, what does it lose? Before we can talk about the mainstream success, we have to remember what 40K actually was for most of its life. It wasn't casual. It wasn't easy, and it definitely wasn't for everyone. The barrier to entry was real. The models were expensive. The rule books were thick. The lore was dense, layered, and often intentionally obscure. You didn't just watch 40K. You studied it. You built it. You painted it. You argued about it. It demanded commitment. And then there's the atmosphere. Grimdark wasn't just a marketing buzzword. It was a foundation. A universe built on religious fanaticism, authoritarian imagery, endless war, and satire so exaggerated that outsiders often didn't know whether it was parody or endorsement. The Imperium wasn't meant to be comfortable. It was meant to be horrifying. And because of all that, the cost, the density, the tone, the difficulty, 40K became a subculture. You didn't stumble into it. You chose it. Or in my case, it chose me, and I just, oh yes, please accept me. And choice created identity. Niche communities developed stronger internal bonds because not everyone gets in. The barrier itself became part of the culture. So here's an uncomfortable thought. Was 40K's identity built on being difficult and inaccessible? Was part of its strength the fact that it wasn't designed for mass appeal? Because when something hard to enter becomes easy to consume, it doesn't just grow. It changes, because something has changed dramatically. Warhammer 40K is no longer hiding in the hobby shops and the back rooms. It's stepping out onto global stages. Amazon Studios is developing 40K adaptation. I don't know where that's at. I feel like that's been years, but apparently it's still floating about. That alone have sounded absurd 15 years ago. A streaming giant invested in grim dark space fascism. That's not niche, that's scale. Then there's the AAA push. Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2 isn't a cult experiment. It's a video game success. It's polished. It's designed to compete in the broader market. 40K isn't just surviving in gaming. It's positioned itself at the forefront. Marketing has become cleaner. Branding has become sharper. Onboarding has become easier. The universe is more accessible than it's ever been. Lore summaries, high production trailers, cross-media exposure. You no longer need to read 5 codexes in order to understand the basics. And here's where it gets complicated. Growth can be natural. Any long-running IP evolves, it expands, it redefines itself, it reaches new audience. But the difference between evolution and optimization. Optimization asks what sells, what scales, what can reach the widest audience with the least friction. So, is 40K growing into its potential, or is it being reshaped to fit global entertainment standards? Is this the natural step for a massive universe, or is it the moment where corporate gravity begins to pull Grimdark into something safer? This is where it gets uncomfortable, because the Grimdark isn't just an aesthetic. It's an extremity. It's hopelessness. It's the moral ambiguity so thick there is no clean hands anywhere. The Imperium is monstrous. Chaos is monstrous. Survival itself is often monstrous. There is no traditional heroes in 40K, only protagonists inside of a nightmare. But mainstream storytelling tends to work differently. It wants relatable heroes, clear emotional arcs, moral contracts you can follow without a lore doctorate. It wants payoffs, a reason to root for something without feeling complacent. So you can sell hopelessness at scale. Can you sell hopelessness at scale? Can you build global franchise around a universe where the good guys are authoritarian zealots and ending is always worse than the beginning? How many 40K books have you read where your favorite character dies? Yeah, no, that's 40K. Get used to it. Can you build a global franchise around a universe with the good guys and authoritarian zealots and the ending is always... Oh, I read that one. Because mass appeal doesn't just expand a brand, it standardizes it. Satire thrives on sharp edges. 40K was built on exaggerated fascism, imagery, religious fanaticism, and endless war pushed to absurd extremes. But satire becomes harder to control when it's global. Once it's monetized at scale, once it needs broad appeal, once it's competing for primetime audiences, does it stay satire or does it become a spectacle? Because broad appeal often requires clarity, clear heroes, clear villains, clear emotional anchors. And the more you clarify 40K, the more you risk standing down the ambiguity. Fuck those words, man. The English language is my first language, but you wouldn't think it. So that word, it defines it, basically. So does mass appeal demand softening edges? Does it demand that the Imperium look a little less monstrous? That the tone and feel a little less oppressive? Does the darkness become cinematic rather than existential? Or can Grimdark scale without compromise? Because if it can't, the mainstream success might not destroy 40K overnight. It might slowly reshape what it means when something niche goes globally. The change isn't just commercial, it's cultural. Subcultures are built in small rooms, in hobby shops, in forums, in late-night arguments over rules and lore. They develop language, in-jokes, expectations. As part of what makes them powerful is not everyone understands them. So what happens when a small room opens up and when millions of new people walk in? Is that dilution or validation? Does growth weaken the culture or prove that it was strong enough to survive exposure? Longtime fans often feel protective of their niche when their niche becomes mainstream. That instinct gets mocked as gatekeeping. But sometimes it isn't about exclusion. It's about preservation. If you spent years investing in something dense, dark, and misunderstood, so it's natural to worry what happens when it becomes simplified. Is gatekeeping always bad? Or can it sometimes act as a pressure valve, protecting tone, protecting complexity, protecting identity? Or every culture has boundaries. The question is whether those boundaries are meant to exclude or maintain cohesion. And maybe the deepest question is this: is 40K's identity tied to being misunderstood, to being difficult, to being something not everyone immediately gets? Because in a universe becoming universally acceptable, universal marketing, universally palpable, it may gain scale, but it may lose the friction that made it distinct in the first place. So is Warhammer 40K becoming mainstream? Yeah, for sure. There is no real debate anymore. Between global streaming deals, AA gaming pushes, broadband marketing, and easier to access lore, 40K is no longer a niche hobby hiding in specialty stores. It's entering the cultural bloodstream, and it isn't accidental. It's momentum. The real question isn't whether it's happening. It's whether that it's good or bad or simply inevitable. Growth isn't betrayal. Expansion isn't corruption. Every long-running universe either evolves or fades. But growth comes with pressure to clarify, pressure to simplify, pressure to make the darkness digestible. And that's where the risk lives. What must never change is the core premise. The Imperium must remain morally compromised. The universe must remain oppressive. Victory must remain temporary. If 40K ever becomes comfortable, it stops being 40K. The line between growth and dilution is simple. Growth brings more people into the nightmare. Dilution turns the nightmare into spectacle. If its satire disappears, if its moral ambiguity, fucking hell. I can write it, I can't say it, disappears, its setting becomes clean, heroic, and easily consumable, then something fundamental has been lost because 40K was never meant to be easy. And maybe that's the tension we have to sit with. If everyone understands 40K, is it still 40K? You know, even me, myself, I kind of do a disservice to 40K with you being a podcaster. You know, I pass on information. I make it easily for as many people to get into it as possible. You no longer have to come to me in my garage and like, you know, make a trek and like do that journey. Like it's just out there. There's just so much out there that you can just access it. But there's like part of that like sacred pilgrimage to your friend's garage or to that great gaming store. And like, it builds a bond. It builds like just a stronger understanding when you're the kind of there. It's not just on in the background. Like I bet a lot of people right now are just listening to this at work and half of what I said kind of is in and out the other ear. You know, you pick up on a little bit, but like if we were doing this face to face in a gaming shop together, very different conversation. Yeah, you know, with mainstream obviously comes money and all that goodness that comes with money, more models and all that. But yeah, we lose a lot too. And we got to remember what 40K was, you know. You go look at the old artwork of 40K where there's wires and craziness and it's just graphic. It's horrifying. You know, we make that joke all the time and we got to remember this joke. Star Wars fans, they want to live in Star Wars. Same with Star Trek people. Same with fucking... even StarCraft people, I'm sure, want to live in that one. Like, they all want to live in that universe. But 40K, get it the fuck away from us. Like, we love looking at it. We don't want to be a part of it. Like, even the best life in 40K, you still got weird wires in your eyes. Like, it's not a good life. And it's intentionally designed that way. It's like a thought experiment. What happens when you do this? What happens when you take these extremes to the extreme? And if you're not allowed to do that because you're like trying to advertise to children, like, hey, I got into 40K when I was like 12 or whatever, but like my parents were smart to keep it from me. Like, it's not kid friendly. Like, I don't know what the age is, you know, you decide that yourself, but like 13-year-olds probably shouldn't be reading about demons. And maybe that's just like culturally acceptable nowadays or like whatever. That's a different rant as a new parent myself. But, you know, like I said, if we file it down, if we sand down all these edges that make it fun and interesting, and then we're kind of just left with this board, like, can I really run thought experiments in here? Or am I going to get judged when I bring my murder rape army onto the board? Hey, but Slaanesh and Khorne demanded. So like, get fucked. That's what we're doing here. Like, you don't want to be here, then, you know, and I've been accused of gatekeeping a lot, and I definitely gatekeep people. Like, and it's funny too, because I'm also like, my garage door is wide open, but if you come in and start bringing shit that doesn't belong in 40K, I close that garage door. You ain't welcome. But I open it up if you want to come back. Like, if you want to do 40K, we're doing 40K. Let's hang out. But like, if all of a sudden you bring your fucking Star Wars X-Wing models, I'm like, you gotta fucking leave, buddy. You're not in the right room. I use this analogy too about just gatekeeping and like just holding like groups and stuff and being exclusionary. Yeah, I like the one line where it's like, it's not exclusionary, it's preservation. Like, I'm not trying to exclude everyone. I wish everyone had the same passion for 40K as I did and the same understanding and respect for it. Like, it's a silly fucking novel, but I still, or novels or whatever setting, but you need a respect for it still, and understanding. That would be perfect, you know, but unfortunately we don't get that, you know, and that's just the way it is. So like, when you have a pizza party, there are going to be people who want to have pepperoni. They're going to want to have, you know, pineapple. You get all types of people eater, and they're all welcome. You're having a pizza party. Go play your Eldar. Go play whatever pizza you want to eat, man. But if all of a sudden somebody brings barbecue ribs, you're like, oh man, that's fucking delicious, but it might not be the right setting for it, dude. Let's have a barbecue next weekend. Bring out some ribs, bring out some chicken wings. Let's do it next weekend. But today is a pizza day. So yeah, gatekeeping has to happen, especially as we become more mainstream. We got to remember what 40K was, man, what it is. We can't let it kind of just become diluted and safe and round and soft. And like, it's not for kids, man. It's not for kids. It's a grim, dark setting where I want to play out wild things, where I want to scream blood for the blood god and see where my craziest... I can only murder so many chickens here. I got to take it to the next level. I guess that's mentally. Well, I don't want to just bitch about mainstream, because honestly, it is good. Like, it's incredible that basically whoever I talk to has heard of it, has heard of 40K at this point, or has heard of Games Workshop or AOS, or like, you know, is aware. And it's surprising how many people are like now really into it, where it's like, now if you're in any type of nerd culture, you definitely know about 40K. And like, if you're casual on the street, you probably heard of it as well. So pretty wild to see that, you know, I just coming from those dark basements, you know, where you're like, how the fuck do I find some people to play with? Like, this is going to be an ordeal, where now you can just pick up Space Marine 2 if you feel like it. And that's another interesting thing too. Like, 40K is a tabletop game. GW has made their statement pretty clear. Like, they are a minis company. Maybe this is an older statement, and maybe this is more the founders. They are a minis company, but they have to make money. But like, they want to push minis on you, and that's how they're making monies and stuff. So with all like the video games and stuff, like, they add to it, but like, it does affect tabletop, you know. We have the War for the 500 Worlds, and Titus, like, Titus just bumped a bunch of people from the story arc. He wasn't even supposed to be a canon character in the first place. Don't get me wrong, I like Titus, but like, he was not canon, and then they forced him to be canon, and they had to move stuff around. So you get stuff like that where, you know, any of those things that aren't officially done by GW, I'm kind of like, well, you're not official canon. So then we get even more lore divides, where it's like, well, what? We can't play basketball together if we don't know the rules. What are we doing? We all need to be on the same page with all the rules. Can I take 2 steps or 3 steps? Where's traveling? We need to know these things. But now it's like, you got like, in tabletop, you've already had the division of like lore junkies and hobby people. They mix and mingle really well. You got the people who are just reading codexes and novels and stuff, and they will hang out with us minis people. But now you got like, and that's pretty canon. Like, you can accept either, you can mix and match them. But now you got video games. You got like the Munchkin game. Is Monopoly 40K canon? Do they have an obscure line in there that now I have to be like, that really fucks around with what 40K is? Like, I get what you're saying. It's just fucking Monopoly. Who cares? But like, you know, you got, there's limits. Well, that's my thought. I'm going to read some comments here. Sorry, you get ranting and raving. It's hard to read if rant and read again. The problem that hits Warhammer right now is that we've gone through a period where society caters to those who need to be represented to feel a connection to something that they want to enjoy. People limit themselves to only being able to connect or understand people that are like them. To me, needing that is a limitation on personal emotional growth. That is a problem. People want to be respected, but are not willing to respect the IP itself. Being relatively new to the franchise compared to yourself, Mark, I personally think we should protect the way 40K is and was in style. Personally, I need grimdark stuff to stay grimdark to put up with the BS emotional cuddling. Yeah. The last episode, or the first episode of this Manifesto series, was kind of about marketing and, you know, aspiration versus identification. You're right. Like, marketing people are trying to trying to market to the most amount of people and people who spend the most money. And typically that is females. They spend more money on stuff than men. Like, we have our stuff, but it's different. So they're trying to appeal to them. Unfortunately, you're trying to sell fucking, I don't know, Warhammer to a woman. So good fucking luck. But basically what happens is you also get in all these marketing positions, you get these females where this is how they think. They want to identify where men want to aspire or inspire. So then the way they market everywhere, you get just that. So then it also bleeds into society, into corporations, whatever. You just get this bleed of femininity into things where, yes, now everyone needs to identify with something. Your teachers were all female, and what do you need to do? You need to learn about your goddamn feelings and learn how to identify with yourself. Doesn't work for men though. And since I know my audience, like when 99% dudes here, like it doesn't work, man. We want to be inspired or aspire to be something. So yeah, no, you're right on the nose there with like, it's kind of limiting, man. And it like, I don't want to see myself in these universes. Yeah, I might put myself in the odd little story here, but not really. It's usually only a name. It's not like I'm like, and Mark Sikora woke up in the grim dark and I was horrified. You know, like there's blood in my eye sockets. Ah! I don't want it. I don't need it. Yeah, we don't need the BS emotional cuddling in 40K. We need the grim dark. You know, it's not everything is for everyone. And that's fine. I don't like seafood. You know what? You can go eat it. I just won't. I'm going to stick with my pizza party. To reach their own. You know, the last two manifestos I didn't think there's necessarily a right or a wrong. But in this one, I definitely think like the more mainstream, the softer it becomes. And that is wrong. Like that, now we lose that. And sure, you get more people, but at what cost? The cost is too high if you lose the past. So that's a rant. That's a rave. That's a manifesto for the day. You know, I might do another one or two of these today, so keep your eyes peeled. They're pretty fun. They're pretty nice. I have a whole bunch written up already, so it's more just if I need a nap or not. We'll see you on the next episode. Adios.